Greek drama themes. First theme is tragedy. The first forms of Greek drama were tragedies. The theme of all tragedy is the sadness of life and the universality of evil. Plays focused on the plights, decisions, and fates of individuals. Gods control the actions of mortal men and women. Self pride caused humans to defy the will of the gods, which led to punishment. Generally, these tragedies revolved around characters whose tragic or personal flaws caused them to suffer. Comedy. Comedy was the other major form of Greek drama. Greek comedies often made fun of people, particularly politicians, military leaders, and other prominent figures. A critic noted, in no other place or age were men of all classics attacked and ridiculed in public and by name with such freedom. Greek tragedies included devices as verbal play, parody, metaphor, and allegory. The most noted comic playwright used satire to make fun of the leaders and institutions of his day. He often placed them in absurd situations, such as the one in The Birds, in which the heroes try to build Kaku City, a peaceful community in the sky. Greek comedy is divided into three periods: Old Comedy, Middle Comedy, and New Comedy. Old Comedy, the first phase of ancient Greek comedy, emerged during the 5th century BC. The high spirited satire of public figures and events characterize these plays. They also include political criticism as well as commentary on literary and philosophical topics. Middle Comedy, dating from the closing years of the 5th century BC to nearly the middle of the 4th century BC, represents the transition from Old Comedy to New Comedy. Comedies from this period made good humored attacks on classics or character types rather than individuals. The playwrights introduced New Comedy in about 320 BC, like Old Comedy. It satirized contemporary Athenian society, but the ridicule was far softer. New comedy also differed from old comedy because it parodied average citizens, fictitious characters from ordinary life rather than public figures, and it had no supernatural or heroic overtones. The plays of new comedy often focused on lovers and concealed identities, and playwrights presented a host of stock characters such as the cruel father, the clever slave, and the conceited cook. Struggle and rebellion. Greek tragedies all depicted struggles of some sort, most commonly between the state and individuals, between human law and natural law, or between human efforts and preordained fate. In many Greek tragedies, it is the person who rebels against the established order of things who becomes the hero or heroine. Sophocles' play Antigone is the best example of struggle and rebellion. Antigone depicts some of these struggles. Antigone defies her uncle Chiron, the king of Thebes, when she performs burial rites for her brother. In doing so, Antigone elevates the need to follow the laws of the gods, who decree that her brother must be buried, above the laws of Creon, who declared such burial illegal in the case of Antigone's brother, because he brought an army against his home city. As punishment for her disobedience, her uncle sentences her to death. At the end of the play, Chiron, who has placed his decree above the command of the gods, is himself punished through the suicides of his wife and son. Sophocles' Oedipus, the king, demonstrates the human effort to escape preordained fate. Oedipus' parents, Lais and Jocasta, attempt to thwart the oracles that tell them their son will murder his father and marry his mother. As the myth and the play bear out, despite their efforts to change faith, Oedipus fulfills this prophecy. The common man is another theme of Greek plays. Both tragedies and comedies dignify the common man. Members of Greek royalty and upper classes create a world filled with adultery, incest, madness, and murder. In Sophocles' Antigone, for example, the men serving in Creon's guard offered their king advice and even disagree with him. Comedy utilized the common man in a different way than tragedy did. Comic writers introduced regular characters such as the orphan, the young lover, and the master of the house as protagonists instead of relying solely on inferior characters. Their stories, too, were as worthy of being told. Mythology and Gods. Early Greek drama, both tragedy and comedy, drew from the stories of mythology and legend. These myths illuminated universal problems. The ancient Greeks believed that tragedy should deal with illustrious figures and significant events. Thus, the gods is ever present. Another most prominent theme that was love. Love as a thematic theme was first introduced in the comedic plays. The new comedy placed its major plot emphasis on romantic intrigue, such as a young man's efforts to win the bride of his choice. Plays of the new comedy often end in marriage. Greek drama style, structure, as set out by Aristotle in his Poetics in 350 BC, tragedy generally follows a set sequence of events. First, the hamartia takes place. This is the tragic error committed by the hero, and it is usually committed outwittingly. Oedipus' acts of killing Lais and marrying Jocasta is the hamartia in Oedipus the King. The unexpected turn of events that brings this error to light is known as the peripeteia, and the hero's recognition of this error is the anagnorisis. According to Aristotle, the peripeteia and anagnorisis are most effective when occurring at the same time. They often come about when the true identity of one of the characters becomes known. This is the case for Oedipus, whose discovery of who his real father is causes him to recognize that his wife is his mother, thereby leading to the reversal of his situation from happiness to misery. Lastly comes the catharsis, the release of the emotions of fear and pity that the tragedy has aroused in the audience. Old comedy also had a distinct structure. The first part is the introduction or prologue, in which the plot is explained and developed. The play proper begins with the paradox, which is the entry of the chorus. New comedy, however, articulated the plot much more clearly and featured characters who devised intrigues and tricks to achieve certain goals. Chorus. The Greek chorus played a crucial role in Greek plays. Members of the chorus, 12 to 15 actors, remained on stage throughout the entire play and periodically recited poetic songs. Overall, the chorus observed and interpreted the actions of the play, reacted to characters and events, and even probed the characters with questions and gave advice. However, the chorus took an additional responsibilities in the hands of different playwrights. The chorus complements, illustrates, universalizes, or thematically justifies the course of events. Satire plays. Satire plays were a blend of tragedy and comedy. The underlying themes of the plays were usually of a serious nature, but their plots and tone were absurd and designed for humor. They featured obscene visual and verbal humor as well as characters called satyrs, which were half man, half animal. and Silenius, a mythical horseman. Satire plays were presented after the tragedies at the theatrical competitions and presented a humorous or farcical version of the tragedy that had just been witnessed. Satire plays were shorter than tragedies, had their unique choral dance, and used more colloquial speech. Like tragedies, satire plays drew their themes and subjects from mythology. Deus ex machina, literally meaning God from the machine. Deus ex machina was the entry of a god or gods at the end of the play to save the protagonist. Unity. Ancient Greek tragedies upheld what Aristotle later named the unities of time, place, and action. Unity of time required that the play take place in 24 hours or less. Unity of place required that the play take place in a single location. And unity of action required that the play focus on only one central story or action and eliminate action or characters that were not relevant to the plot. Aristotle believed that the observance of the unities contributed to the intensity of the audience's experience while viewing the play, particularly the cathartic response.